And we are here to talk the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
I'm going to be talking a little bit in code today because if you watch my channel and you watch my live, yes.
Is the plane going down? Are we going to die? Why are you saying I'm sorry?
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lindsay and I'm the Housewife Historian, and today we are going to be talking a little bit about the Real Housewives of New Jersey, and also I have a big announcement. If you follow my channel, then you know that I was demonetized out of nowhere last week after I did a couple of videos on the Real Housewives of New Jersey and exposing some different things about some of the cast, and I guess the repercussion of that is that my YouTube has been demonetized, and I've had no strikes and no violations or anything like that. So I'm basically being forced to go to Patreon, because here's the thing, guys. I've always appreciated free content. I've never wanted to make my content something that people had to pay for, because I understand that right now, people are struggling and things are expensive, and monthly subscriptions are, between Hulu and Netflix and etc. So I'm trying my best to navigate this in a way that I can put out content that's accessible to everyone, but also have some exclusive content and some special, things that I'll do in the Patreon that would obviously make the monthly subscription worth it. So some of those things are going to be exclusive tea. I'm going to be giving stuff away, like different sort of games, I guess, if you will. I love to buy like things from Dorit and from Beverly Beach, and so I have a lot of things that I've purchased that I've kind of just put back because I was going to use them on my YouTube channel. But since I've been demonetized and I'm going to be moving on to Patreon, I figured it's a great time to start doing little games, giving you guys some free stuff to win, like some free merch, or maybe a free month subscription to my Patreon, something along those lines, so that, again, giving you guys something back. The monetization, obviously, it's not making anyone rich. But what it does do, guys, is there are services and things that, as bloggers and podcasters, that we have to pay for, and like a streaming service, for example. So I use StreamYard. It's my streaming service, but I have a monthly fee I have to pay for it. So the monetization on YouTube, of course, wasn't making me rich, but it was nice because it did, again, take care of some of the fees and things that you need to purchase, because it's not exactly free. So if you guys have been following me, you know that I've been dealing with the repercussions from Real Housewives of New Jersey, some of the ladies and the things that I post that they don't appreciate. I've been doxxed, I've been hacked, and now I've been demonetized. So basically, all I can really say is, guys, be mad at the housewives, be mad at the franchise, be mad at Bravo that your favorite bloggers and podcasters can't come on to free platforms and say their opinion or talk about certain things without getting demonetized, hacked, harassed, bullied, etc. Right? Because that's basically where we're at. There's a pattern. Okay, guys? Like, I'm not just making this shit up because I want to say that Joe and Melissa are no. There's a pattern of this. I'm not the first one, right? So first it was the real Andy BH. He got hit with a demonetization out of nowhere. He was I think it was visiting his family in Colombia. He did a video on Andy and Margaret and some of the housewives, and the next day or two he was demonetized, right? Same sort of violation that I have. It's the same exact thing. He had a channel for a long time in good standing, just like I did. No violations, no strikes, no copyrights, and just one day demonetized. And then about a month or two later, there's a beautiful young lady She blogs, she concentrates. I think her expertise is more Beverly Hills. A lot of you guys that listen to me also listen to her, Candy Washington. You guys have heard me speak about her before. And she was demonetized out of nowhere after she started to expose some things about Miss Kyle Richards, about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, right? So she is an expertise in that department. Like I'm sort of an expert, if you will, in the New Jersey department. And because of that, she woke up one day and her channel was demonetized. And here's the thing, guys. I know that if you're just, your viewers, if you're not up on all of this stuff, when I look into New Jersey and I am doing, my deep dives and stuff, I've discovered a lot of things. I've discovered a lot of connections. New Jersey is a very tangled web, but I keep telling y'all that Melissa and Kyle Richards are friends. They have been friends for a very, very long time. I can date them all the way back to 2009 and 2010. And for anyone that doesn't believe me, I encourage you to please go back and watch the Ultimate Housewives Girls Trip with Teresa and Melissa, because Kyle was also on that trip, and you will see the distance between Teresa and Kyle. And I even remember watching it thinking, wow, I'm surprised that Kyle and Teresa didn't have a closer bond on the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip, considering that they're both OGs. They both were, first to start this network show. They've been on it for years. And I thought that they would have a bond, but they didn't, because Kyle took to Melissa. They didn't show us that they had been friends for all this time. They didn't tell us, but it was apparent. It clicked in my head. I have lots of pictures of Melissa and Kyle together in Vegas, in LA, when Melissa was very first going on the Real Housewives. So I think that they exchange information. And that's why you also see Melissa trying to play plays that Beverly Hills do. You also hear Melissa reference the Beverly Hills housewives, okay? She mentioned them, I think, in the reunion and at one point. And Teresa also mention them. So to me, it sort of feels like this inside joke, not inside joke, but this inside information that the ladies all know that Melissa and Kyle correspond and that they help each other. Right. So thank you, Mia. I appreciate you. Thank you guys for this. I know that's the thing. I've worked very hard on my channel. If you guys have been following me, then you know that I started my channel with nothing. I had no one to mentor me, help me, guide me, navigate me. I literally had to teach myself everything, getting my YouTube channel up and running, monetization. I would go through my comments and read and take people's opinions on my audio and my content and try to, apply those to try to, get a following and give people what they're looking for on YouTube. So it is hard because, again, like Mia said, 7,000 followers, guys. That takes it. These are authentic followers. These aren't followers that I bought. Here's the thing on YouTube. If you go on Instagram and look at people, some of these accounts, housewives that have 50, 60, 70,000 views on their Instagram reel, go look at who's viewed it. Okay. The accounts are like bogus. Percent of them bogus. They're not authentic accounts. So, 7,000 followers that are authentic, that are real, that's a big deal. So it does make it a hard decision because, like I said, I understand what it's like to be hard on money and not to be able to afford the luxuries, the Peacock, the Hulu, yada, yada, yada. So I'm still going to be giving you guys regular content on a regular basis that will be free, that will be on platforms. But this is just going to be a new podcast, and it's going to be on Patreon. And like I said, I'm going to be posting, general content as well. But here's the thing, guys. I'm doing interviews, okay? I'm not messing around no more. My podcast, I can say whatever I want, because come and try to take my podcast from me, okay? Go ahead. Try to take it from me. You can't. Try to take my Patreon. You cannot take it from me. So I'm going to say whatever I want. I've really filtered my thoughts and opinions on a lot of things that have transpired, especially as it pertains to New Jersey, because I didn't want to have to deal with the backlash. But now I'm not going to have to worry about that. So I have gotten you guys 2 exclusive interviews with 2 different content creators. One of them was just in Reality Blurb, all RHONJ facts. We recorded last night. Let me tell you guys, this hour has a lot of tea in it. Like, so much tea that you might have to go back and listen to it twice, okay? Literally, we talk about everything. We talk about the Namaste podcast, the live event. We already have confirmation that Jennifer Aiden's going to be in the audience. We have confirmation that Danielle's in the audience, and we have confirmation about something else. And I'll let you guys, hear that when we drop everything, probably tomorrow. So she is exclusive to the tea. She is exclusive to the things transpiring. She's also the blogger who did the interview with John Fuda's ex, Brittany. So she actually corresponded with Brittany when Brittany was in the transitional control house. She was who Brittany was corresponding with when John Fuda allegedly sent someone up to the transitional control home to basically scare Brittany into silence. So she I had heard that she was I thought Kindy and Dana said she was incarcerated. I don't know. I have to look into that and get back to you guys on that, if to see if she had violated her transitional control and if she had been sent back to the institution. Regardless, I thought that her sentence as a whole was up this month. And if that's the case, I hope that she gets an attorney and she gets a large media outlet that is willing to at least let her tell her side of the story. Because let me tell you guys something, it is complete bullcrap to kick somebody while they're down, okay? And while somebody is in prison and doesn't even have access to the internet, to free phone calls, listen, when you're in prison, it's expensive to be in prison, okay? It's not free. It's not free to be in prison. Phone calls cost money. Your emails cost money. Your deodorant costs money. Any of your commissary food costs money. Your shoes cost money. Your socks cost money. Everything costs money in prison. And because you're indigent, you don't have the money to buy. You can't buy your own things. You're basically dependent on people outside in the real world, right? And so to come at Brittany in the media and to expose an entire story, basically making her out to be a terrible mother while she's incarcerated, and she doesn't, she is restricted, like restricted in the worst sort of way that anyone could be. Like, you can't be any more restricted than in prison, guys. Like, literally. You can't be any more restricted, any more unable to clap back or defend yourself when you're in a prison. So for somebody to go on a reality show and air your dirty laundry and air your whole entire criminal history to bloggers so that they can post about what a terrible mother you are while you're incarcerated is pretty damn shitty, okay? And I have to give the blogger credit for reaching out to Brittany and, chatting with her and getting her side of the story while she was in the transitional control, because again, she was limited to what she could and could not do. And why doesn't she get a chance to say her side of things? Why are we just going to take John and Rachel's side of things because they're not in prison? So anyone that's been to prison, their thoughts and opinions are no longer valid or valuable, because that takes away everything. So basically, we're going to disregard everything that Teresa says. Oh, let's disregard everything that Joe Giudice says. Oh, let's disregard everything that, all these people have been to prison, been to jail. They're connected people. They run in crime families. Like, that's not I mean, we saw Teresa meet with Victoria Gotti. Like, jail and prison is not an unnormal thing in that connected lifestyle. It's not as a lot of people like, oh my gosh, prison, right? But they are sort of familiar, I guess, if you will, because they deal with their people going to jail or prison, getting caught, whatever the case may be. It happens. Look at Tommy Manzo. Tommy Manzo's been on bond for two years. So you're telling me everything that Tommy Manzo says is bullshit too. So Tommy's full of shit. Joe's Judice, his opinion can't matter because he's been to prison. Tommy's opinion can't matter because he's been to prison. Disregard everything Teresa says because she's a felon too. I mean, is that how we live in 2023? If you're a felon, your opinion, your side of the story is completely invalid. She's probably more clear-minded now after being in prison for however long than she's ever been, to be honest. Because she's under no mind-altering substances because she's been in prison. So, absolutely, Mia. Absolutely. I can't get into it too much because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I did some videos. This has happened to me several times when I've done videos and I've mentioned like names or people that didn't like me mentioning it, right? So they have a way of letting me know that, usually through somebody else, through a DM, yada, yada, yada. Well, I had somebody on my LinkedIn and um, they're very connected, very, very connected. And these people basically put Teresa and Joe in prison. Okay, like let's be real here. If we're going to be 100%, we have to talk about the fact that these people, just because they are connected and they break the law, doesn't mean that they don't cooperate with the law. Okay, so sometimes we as people think, oh, well, if they're a gangster, if they are, out here hustling and breaking the law, they obviously must be like not, they don't have any respect for the law. You wouldn't think that they would cooperate with law enforcement, but that's actually the complete opposite. So back in the day, yes, it was always that people that, talk to tell on you, they're rats, right? They're rats. They tell on you. They're snitches, yada, yada, yada. Okay, for example, look at Tommy Manzo's co-defendant. He's part of the Luigi family, and he flipped on Tommy Manzo. He did 2 years, but he flipped on Tommy Manzo. So it's not the same day and age. These are not the same gangsters, old school, Sammy the Bull, John Gotti gangsters. Okay. These people, they don't want to be in prison. They don't care. They'll tell on whoever. They do not care. But it's messed up to think that there was a lot of people like giving information on Teresa and Joe that essentially got them a prison sentence. Like, that is very serious. Let's not forget people also smiled in Teresa and Joe's face and tried to act like they felt so bad. Like, I remember the scene when Teresa came home from prison and it was her and the girls and her dad. And I think it was Easter, and Melissa and the kids came, and Joe Gorga, and Joe Judice called, right? And Joe Gorga, I think that's the first time he had talked to him since Juicy Joe had went to prison. And he cried on the phone to him, right? Literally cried on the phone to him. And then shortly after that, he does a scene with Teresa and he says that Gia needs to basically let go of her father and let him, because when he got out of prison, he didn't get to be free, right? So you would think after you're sentenced to a 3-year prison sentence, you do your 3 years and then you're free. No. See, he had to be deported, right? So if he fought the deportation, he still had to be incarcerated and he had to be detained in an ICE facility, which was worse than prison. Okay, worse than prison. And so after Juicy Joe did his 3 years, he went and set 6 more months while he fought legally for his, not to be deported or at least to have visitation, something. Thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars spent. And he did an additional 6 months detained and incarcerated just to try to fight his deportation. And guess how it ended? He still got deported. It didn't do anything for him. So he gave the state or the country or whatever you want to say another 6 months and it didn't do anything. But before he had left ICE and given up on the deportation, Gia was really adamant that she wanted her dad to fight. If you guys remember, she wanted him to stay and fight the deportation. And so after Joe Gorga spoke with Joe Giudice on the phone at Easter, he decided that Teresa and Gia needed to let Joe go and be okay with the deportation and deal with it, because it was too hard on him mentally after he had just done the 3 years to go sit in this ICE detention unit while he fights a deportation that he's likely going to get deported for anyways. So eventually that's what happened. But it's just so crazy to me that it was literally the same people that put them in prison, smiling in their face, crying for them, telling them that they love them. I mean, like, do you guys understand the level of what is, like, I don't even know the level of, like, only a very, very, very sick-minded people can do things like that. Very, very sick-minded, vengeful people, manipulators, people that can lie. Do you know how much you have to lie if you do some shit like that? If you literally turn somebody in, it doesn't even have to be your family, and you hear that they're going to prison as a result of that, being indicted on that as a result of you and the information that you provided, don't you think you're going to feel bad? Don't you think you're not going to feel like trying to pretend like you're there for them? Like, I would rather you just pretend like, just hate me. Just show me that you hate me. Don't pretend that you like me, because that's why they say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. This is a perfect example, right? Like, your family, your brother shouldn't be like an enemy, right? However, his wife has made him an enemy, and look at how it ended. And I think Teresa was 100% right at the reunion when she said they weren't trying to get me in trouble. They were trying to get my husband in trouble. And they're right. They hated Joe Giudice. They hated him because he gave no F's, none. And his family made up for the fact that they weren't around. So obviously, we've seen Melissa and Joe use family. Well, mommy and daddy, they're passed away. Yada, yada. They've always used family as this excuse, right? But before, when Teresa was married to Joe, they had Juicy Joe's family, and we know that they've been super supportive. They have been there for the girls while Teresa was in prison, vice versa. They have a great relationship. We also know that Bravo actually went to Juicy Joe's sister-in-law and brother and wanted them to film. And guess what they said, guys? They said no. They said no because they knew. They already knew, and so they didn't want to film. Nope, they said no. So Joe and Melissa could have said no. They could have went to their own network. They could have done something different. Reality TV was just coming on the scene. It was just getting big. Like, they didn't have to go on the Real Housewives of New Jersey. If Melissa wanted to be famous, if she wanted to be a star, there are other avenues. But I don't think she wanted to be a star or famous or any of that until she saw it happening to Teresa. Not even friends, pretending to be family. I mean, if you guys go back and watch the episodes where Teresa goes to prison, and then when Joe goes to prison, and I always go back to the visitation list, because you guys know, guess what? I worked on the inside of a prison. I'm very familiar with how things go down. Okay. I worked with a unit manager, secretary, and caseworker who worked in visitation and approved and denied visitors. I could tell you a horror story about a pimp that was his phone number was being given to girls within the institution by an officer. And he had done, like, this guy that was trying to get on this girl's visitation list, he had done like 20 years in prison for promoting prostitution, and he was on several other ladies visitation lists. And here it was basically a prostitution ring that he was running outside of the prison, because he was recruiting women from inside the prison, and then when they would get out, he would pick them up and the cycle would start. So prison visitation, it's a big deal. Okay. It's not just that I'm going to sign my name and they're going to look at no, they want to know if you've been on probation. They want to know if you've been on parole. When was the last time you were arrested? When was the last time you were in contact with police? They have to make sure that you are legit, because of the fact that they're letting you into an institution. They don't want you to come in with illegal drugs and substances and hand them away in the visitation. They need to know everything about you. Are you a pimp? Like, are you the girl's pimp? Are you someone that, is trying to mess with this young woman? It's very crazy. So when Joe Gorga says my sister didn't put me on my visitation list, he's blatantly lying, because Teresa had no control over adding people to the visitation list. Yes, you have a limit on how many visitors you can have, okay? Hypothetically, let's say 15. Do those 15 people necessarily visit you? No, but to put money onto your account, you only can do it through an approved person, someone that's on your visitation. So therefore, you have to have people on your visitation that you maybe never will see, just simply for the fact that they put money onto your account. Now, Teresa did say to have Joe Gorga visit, she had to take her sister-in-law off her visitation list. Yes, she could have went to her case manager and said, I know that my brother's about to get approved, yada, yada, yada. Can you please take this person off? And if you approve my brother, add him in that spot. Yes, very, very plausible. But Joe Judah Gorga would have had to have went online and found a prison visitation form. He would have printed it out. He would have completed the form. He would have made copies of his driver's license and a utility bill, and he would have had to have sent all of that in. Teresa does not have access to a copy machine. She doesn't have access to the internet. She doesn't have access to any of those things, guys. We have to remember, when you're in an institution, you have to buy everything. You're buying your paper and pens. Like, you're not getting anything for free. So they're not printing out visitation forms and leaving them in the day room for you to give to your family and friends. First of all, you can't take anything into the visitation building because you are strip searched before you go in for visitation, and again when you come out in visitation. So the only way that you would be able to even get visitation forms to a friend or family member, if you were the one who had to obtain them and give them to your friends and family, would be to literally mail them in the postal mail. That would be your only option of getting anything from inside the institution to her family. If she knits a blanket, hypothetically, people knit to like take up the time or whatever. They knit blankets and stuff. If she wanted to knit a blanket for one of the girls, she would have to send it through the postal mail. She would have to go to the mailroom. They would take the money off of her books and she would mail it that way. So there's no exchange in visitation. You're barely allowed to touch the person. So it's important to remember that the lies build up when it comes to these two. I mean, this isn't even touching on, you guys know the Namaste live shows coming up. If any of you guys are coming, make sure that you comment. I would love to get to meet you guys face to face. It's October 5th. It's a Thursday. One of the ladies I just interviewed for my Patreon, her name is Lindsay. She's also on Instagram, and she was on the Namaste podcast last week with Teresa and Melissa. So she's also going to be attending the event. Her and I are going to link up. Sorry, I was looking at Joanne's message here. Did anyone else see the clip of Joe Gorga going to the Bahamas and walking into the place and Joe Judah? Yes, completely ridiculous. They serve too much time, are paying it off, and it's ridiculous that Juicy is supported forever. They didn't unalive anyone, and I'm over this. Why? Juicy did more than he should have. I mean, Jamie, I completely agree with you. I mean, I could go on and on and on about the unfair things in our judicial system, and that's why it's very obvious, guys, that somebody was pushing for this. Okay, like I've heard from sources that the government wasn't even really interested in what was going down, because guess what, everyone was doing it. That's why there was a collapse in the market, guys. Okay, that was like a big thing for realtors. It was a big thing for lenders in New Jersey. They were pushing, there's supposed to be like a process, a 30-day wait period, something along those lines. They were able to push that through. There's been city treasurers and all kinds of people in trouble over the same sort of stuff that Teresa and Joe got in trouble for. But again, the government wasn't that interested in them, but they had people basically, from what I can understand, giving them a case and being like, no, 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 they're breaking this law right here. And right here, they did this, and this breaks code section, yada, yada, yada. So it's just like if you have a victim, for example, let's say that you get into a fight or something, and or your dog, I don't know, something, there's a victim in the situation. You get charged, the state is going to prosecute you. It doesn't matter if the victim wants to prosecute you or not. The only option the victim has is to testify or not, okay? Or give what's called a victim impact statement. So that would be on your day of sentencing. You're going to go to court, you're going to plea, you're going to do all that nonsense. And then on the day of your sentencing, even though you may have worked out a plea deal, you still go before the judge. The state will give their recommendation, and then the state will give the victim an opportunity to speak. It is a victim impact statement, and they may come forward in the courtroom and give their side of things. If you have a victim that shows up in the courtroom, they obviously are following through with whatever it is that you did. That's putting pressure on the judicial system because somebody's watching them. There's a victim that wants justice, if you will. Okay. Let me tell you how important that victim is. So the victim does a victim impact statement. Say you had a plea deal, you thought you were getting 2 years, you get 3 years. Well, guess what? Before you can go for transitional control, the parole board is going to reach out to your victim. They want to know if your victim, do they support the perpetrator going to transitional control, or if you don't, then why? So they will stay in contact with the victim, giving them updates on your position, because that's somebody watching, that's somebody putting pressure on the state, that's somebody saying like, look, they did me wrong, they did this wrong, and it's your responsibility to sentence them for this crime and, have justice, basically, right? But if you don't have a victim, if you don't have somebody else telling the other side of the story, and you can just go up there and tell it how you think it happened, you're a lawyer, they cut a deal and you plead guilty, you get sentenced, you sign here, and you have a great day and you go along your way, right? But when you have a victim, it changes things. So when you have somebody going to the federal agencies with proof that shows Joe and Teresa have committed crimes, and they present it in a way where the government doesn't have to do any work because the person presenting it has done all of the legwork. And then that person is going to stay on the government. They're going to call and say, did you look this over? What do you think? I have more. They broke this law. They did this. They did that. Yada, 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 yada. And if you do enough of that, you're going to get a detective or an agent that cares, or that's on an ego trip and says, oh, yeah, this is some bullshit. These people are on TV. They think they can do whatever they want. Yada, yada, yada. And we just because we're dealing with people that may or may not break the law, they're connected, and they, do whatever it is that they do that may not be legal, it doesn't mean that they're still not infiltrated or friendly with agents, police officers, whatever you want to, state troopers, whatever you want to call them, right? I always remind you guys of the movie The Departed. Okay. It was about a man who actually ran Irish mob for 20 years. He got away with it. He was making millions. He killed 20 people, and he got away with it because he was working with the feds. He was giving up his competition. How genius is that? Go be an undercover FBI informant, and you can sell your explicit things, but you're gonna tip off the feds to your competition. Okay, that really happens. So there are people within the judicial system that associate with people that break the law. And so to think that Joe Gorga doesn't, have people that he knows, or people that he knows that know people that are within that sort of profession, if you will. I also like to remind you guys that we have, Caroline and Al. There's been lots of rumors around. Oh, Dorothy, thank you. I know. Hi, Yo. Nice to see you guys. Thanks for coming into my live today. My voice is hoarse because I've been working hard doing interviews for my new Patreon. I'm going to have all our RHONJ facts. We just recorded an hour full of tea all about the charity baseball game, Jackie, Teresa, Dolores, lots and lots of tea, information about upcoming events, upcoming sit downs, producers. I'm telling you guys, it's a good hour episode. And then I just done an interview as well with Lindsay, who was on the Namaste Bitches podcast last week. So she's going to be on my Patreon as well. So I have that done. And I have one more interview for my podcast, and then I'm going to get it dropped for you guys. And that way you can be up to speed. I talked about at the beginning of my video that I really am someone that does not want to charge people for my content. I've always wanted it to be free and available to everyone because I understand the times. I understand people are tired of subscriptions and all of that. So the only thing that I know that I can try to do is run my Patreon and have exclusive content for listeners there, and then obviously do maybe a little bit of a watered down version on a public podcast platform like Spotify and Apple and Amazon, so that everyone can enjoy my content. So we will definitely be working on that. I have a lot of things in the works for you guys. I'm going to be going to the Namaste Bitches live event on October 5th. So I'm going to be doing a lot of content from there as well. So that is going to be fun. And some of that I'll probably make exclusive to my Patreon. And I'll keep a lot of it, of course, public, though, for everyone else. Doing my best, guys. But I do, I worked hard for my 7,000 followers. YouTube demonetizes me, and it's frustrating. So I think that going to a podcast, I can say whatever I want. Okay. I can, I want to incorporate you guys a little bit. I'm going to be giving stuff away. I'm going to be giving free subscriptions away. So I'm going to try to repay you guys for your love and support as well. But going back to the Manzos and the fact that we have to remember that people connected to the Manzos, connected to Joe Gorga, or Joe Gorga's people likely work within the federal institutions, because we've heard lots of rumors about records and Al getting things adjusted, and just a lot of things that sound like they were done behind the scenes, but also that wouldn't happen for the average person, right? So like they have ties to things and to people that we don't. And that's why I think it's very easy for them to go and give information about Teresa and Joe's comings and goings, and it result in an indictment and ultimately a incarceration. Joe Judice knows that it's bullshit. He did David Yontov's podcast. He talks about the feds. He talks about them just dropping him off in Italy, in the middle, just how his experience was. And I appreciate that he's at least honest and he doesn't, fool us. If you notice, Teresa doesn't talk about it because, guys, it's such a traumatic event. A lot of people, and I like to use Brittany and John Fuda as an example, because people are so much harder on the mother than they are the father. People really in society truly look at women in a different light when it comes to being incarcerated, when it comes to, the law, or having to leave their children to be incarcerated. It's a very, very, very different experience. It's very difficult on the children. I hated visitation. I hated to see children crying for their mothers. It is very, very sad. It is a very, very traumatic. And I think that we can all agree that Teresa's traumatized from it. She doesn't want to talk about it. She wants to pretend like it never happened. And, I can't blame her at all. And honestly, if it weren't for the fact that I think that there were so many people involved in trying to take Juicy Joe and even Teresa down, that, I think it's important to remember that and understand it, because I don't want to see her make back up with them. And I know that it's a matter of time before producers start making them have sit downs. I know it's coming. He's trying to get back into the country. He's playing nice. Actually, yes, Mia, he is trying to get a sort of, I don't know what the word is, but it's basically to give him a pass to come into the country for special events. So, like, hypothetically, Gia's college graduation, or it would be whatever the, guidelines are within the travel agreement. But there are certain programs available for situations like this. But again, you're dealing with the judicial system. These things take years because guess what? You're a felon. So nobody cares that you want to come back into the country and see your daughter. Nobody cares because you're a felon, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares what Brittany has to say because she's a felon. So again, you have privileged people within the judicial system that look at Juicy Joe as a number, as a felon, as somebody who broke the law, and they're not going to go out of their way or work hard or speed up the process for him because they don't care. I'm sorry, guys. I'm just being honest. Like, that's the truth. And so I hope that he does get some sort of travel agreement with the United States so that he can come here. I know that the injustice within our judicial system, I think, is so strong that it even motivated Gia to study immigration law. Like, she's literally, I think, about to go study under like a big time immigration attorney. And she, because once you're in the system, you see how it really runs and how messed up it is, because there's so many people just like my family who walk around and pay their taxes and they believe that the judicial system is fair and wants the truth. And that's definitely not the case. They want your guilty plea and they want the conviction rate for the elections the next year. You're all making sense why Juicy didn't fight. That's my Italian in me who would go off. LOL. I understand. I think they tried to trigger him and get him to fight. He would have been in trouble. Teresa told him to be nice to protect him. I agree with you. Also, to stick it to Trey because she had to make up with the Loritos, which the Gorgas were not happy about because they were holding secrets against Teresa. I completely agree, guys. I think there's hope with Trump having a mugshot. There is an interview here on YouTube where Teresa explains the Bahamas encounter. She does say, I think that she like knows that they're going to the Bahamas somehow, and she reaches out to Juicy Joe ahead of time. Like, yo, you know how my brother is. If anyone knows how Joe Gorga is, it's Juicy Joe. He's known him his whole entire life, okay? That's why Joe Gorga hates Joe Giudice, because he's known Joe his whole entire life and he can't get over on him because these people go on reality TV and they tell their story however they want to. And that's exactly what's happening with Rachel and John Fuda right now. They're just telling it however they want to until somebody stands up and raises their hand and says, I'm sorry, that's not what happened. The Gorgas camped out waiting for Juicy at his usual spot, and regarding Juicy not reacting to putting Joe in his place in the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, guys. So you'll go. Teresa found out through one of her girlfriends who was on the same flight as the Bahamas to the Gorgas. That's what I'm saying, guys. These people are predictable. They don't have any new plays in their playbook. That's how we know when they're in the press. That's how we know when we see, these bullshit stories that Teresa's getting demoted to a friend of. Like, come on. We know that is the Gorgas, allegedly for educational purposes only. It's them. It's their play. They do the same thing over and over and over. And so they're that predictable that Teresa, just finding out that they were on a flight to the Bahamas, she was able to predict exactly what was going to happen. So much so that she reached out to Juicy Joe and told him about it. Like, come on, that is crazy. Free stuff is great, but check shipping rates, which increase towards Christmas completely. I understand. Yes, I know, Green Door. I know, but I try to buy light things. Like, I bought one of the Dorit's hats, one of her beach hats, her Beverly Beach hats, and a beach towel and a little beach bag. It's super cute that I really wanted to carry for myself, but it's still in the package. So Because if I open it, I'm keeping it. Okay, guys. Well, I just want to hop on and let you guys know what my plans are. Please stay tuned. Like I said, don't be mad at me about Patreon. Don't be mad at us about Patreon. Be mad at Bravo. Be mad at the housewives that don't allow us the privilege to go on to public platforms and say our opinions or talk about things that we've read or heard in the press without dealing with repercussions, right? So I've been hacked, I've been doxxed, and now I have been demonetized. And so now it's time that I have to take my platform to I got to take it to Patreon, and I got to take it to the podcast platforms where I can be protected. So, yeah, but make sure that you guys hit that follow button. Make sure that you subscribe so that you guys can stay tuned. I'm going to be dropping my Patreon likely tomorrow. Again, I'm excited because I have 2 really, really great interviews for you guys. I think you're going to love. And lots of new content, of course, and going to be covering the Namaste podcast live event too. So, all right, guys, make sure you hit the like button. Have a great day, and we shall talk soon.